Welcome to another edition of the Rush Behind's Top 10 Countdown. This week we're looking at the top 10 greatest comebacks of all time. And gee whiz, do these have to be seen to be believed. As always, it's tricky to condense the game's greatest moments into a top 10 list. And we're not just going to be counting down the greatest deficit turnarounds, because let's face it, that will be pretty boring. We'll be factoring in the weight of the game and the thrill of the comeback. So don't worry, you can't just go to Wikipedia to look this one up for yourself. Well, let's get into it. First off the list, well, a first. We'll let Athos explain with an apt analogy.
Up until midway through the fourth quarter, this match can be best described by an adult holding a toddler at arm's reach, and while the toddler tries his very hardest to punch and kick, he just doesn't go anywhere.
You're going to be a great dad, Athos. But yes, absolutely right. The Suns trailed by 40 points late in the third quarter, but 8 goals later and a miss after the siren from Justin Westhoff saw Gold Coast record its first ever win at AFL level.
It was quite a tough start for the Suns to begin their AFL life. First 3 games lost by an average margin of 90 points. And then coming up against the Power, against all odds, they got the win. Had a little bit of luck on their side, no doubt, but definitely a memorable one for the fledgling side. Definitely unexpected. Came a lot earlier than everyone thought as well.
It couldn't have happened on a grander stage against Port Adelaide at Amy Stadium, who were certainties to come away with the Chockies. The Suns only notched up another 2 wins for the year, but this was a victory that would be remembered fondly for the fledgling Suns, more so than their 150-point drubbing against Geelong later that year.
Carlton making the finals in 2013 was like Mr. Burns joining Homer's bowling team.
Listen here. I want to join your team.
You want to join my what?
You want to what, his team?
You don't know why it happened, you don't know how it happened, but it happened.
Geez, someone has been on fire with the analogies today. 2013 was one of the darkest years for the AFL, with Richmond making the finals, yeesh, and the supplement saga consuming the football world for the entire season. It resulted in Essendon being kicked out of the top 8 and missing out on their finals berth, leaving a 9th place Carlton to fill the void.
Well, it was Richmond's first finals appearance since 2001, so it was pretty significant for them after finishing 9th for all these years. And then only to be knocked out by a side who actually finished 9th. It's pretty unreal. There's a lot of poetry in sport, and this one is the perfect rhyme.
With Richmond leading by over 4 goals midway through the match, the Blues sensationally rolled the Tigers with 12 second-half goals, knocking them out of the finals race from 9th place. It still makes me laugh a little to this day.
They're also a team who finished 9th. Whenever Richmond make their first finals in 12 years, they don't finish 9th. The team that finishes 9th makes the 8.
From 9th, yes, we know the 9th jokes, they're not funny.
Someone's a little bit grumpy with the Blues 7 years later. Classic. Knocking off Geelong at Cardinia Park is no easy feat, but tell that to the Eagles outfit from 2006, who incredibly ousted the Cats on their home deck by the narrowest of margins.
You go all the way down the Highway, down to Geelong. Alphabet Stadium, as it's now known now, had to get the job done. Not many teams have beaten them down there in recent history, but that takes the cake.
West Coast trailed by 54 points before Ben Cousins and Daniel Kerr got the juices flowing through their midfield to inspire the Eagles to a miracle 3-point comeback. Adam Hunter slotted the match winner with just minutes remaining before holding off the desperate Cats to record an astonishing win. Even more extraordinary, the Eagles were without Chris Judd.
The Eagles were without Chris Judd, 54 points down, and were playing in Geelong, and they still found a way to win.
It was only onwards and upwards for West Coast, who went on to take out the flag and establish themselves as one of the great sides of the 2000s. In what was quickly becoming a common occurrence for St Kilda during 2015, and for a shareable portion of their 147-year existence, they were getting absolutely thrashed. Conversely, the Doggies were firing on all cylinders, and Jake Stringer was rubbing salt into the wounds as the margin ballooned out to 55 points, 5 minutes into the third term. And as all the St Kilda grannies and Chris thought this day was done and dusted, the Saints still had a little bit of fire left in the belly.
Well, it's fair to say that it was going from bad to worse for the Saints. With a 55-point deficit, 5 minutes into the third term, wasn't looking too great until Jack Billings and David Armitage staged one of the greatest revivals for the red, white and black. Billings kicked 4 in the second half, and David Armitage racked up 45 touches and recorded one of the greatest comebacks. I think it's the equal 5th largest comeback of all time. And I was lucky enough as well to get away with one of Jack Billings' jumpers he owned from that year, which is pretty special.
Surprised that's your only piece of Saints merch there, Chris? I shouldn't have asked. Billings piled 4 second-half goals, while Armitage notched up 45 touches.
They were getting smacked. Smacked against the Doggies, who were resurgent. 2015, they were back under Bevo. And they won. And marvel. Oh boy. Saints fans, get up and about, Halo's on.
St Kilda led for a meagre 8 minutes before the final siren signalled their stellar comeback. From sheer dejection to utter disbelief to unbridled jubilation, this game epitomised just what footy is to so many people. Alright, that's it. Who's been swapping out my notes and putting in ludicrous St Kilda stories and made-up comebacks? I bet it's Chris, that pasty... Wait, is this one actually real? Jiminy Christmas, my apologies, this sounds like a cracker.
Yeah, absolutely right, Will. So the Saints are 8 goals down, 16 minutes left to go in the final term, and then just out of nowhere comes Tony Lockett. Doesn't kick 1, doesn't kick 2, not 3, but 4 final quarter goals. The Saints come away with an incredible 1-point win. It's probably one of the best victories by less than a goal that decade. Just absolutely incredible Saints.
Well, that was a bit meta. I like it. The great Tony Lockett booted 4 goals in the final few minutes to bring the seemingly dead game back to life, which included this classic plugger moment. The 90s. As the smiles slowly faded from the Swans' faces, one last blow from Lockett and a memorable post-match salute to the Sydney faithful put the Saints up by a solitary point to record one of its most iconic wins.
That sums it up. Tony Lockett against his future team. Kicks 11 goals at the ground that he make his own to get the Saints over the line. An absolute incredible performance. Mate, Tony Lockett, there's only one. That's why they made that ad. Do we have to talk about this game? Do we really have to talk about this game?
Yes, we do, Nick. It's in the script, and I'm only going off the script. No time for any ad-lib, fancy-nancy, dilly-dallying here. Let's flick over to Athos for some context.
Naturally, when compiling a list of the greatest AFL comebacks, Collingwood features quite a bit because surrendering leads and losing big games is just what they do.
He's starting to use that one quite a bit, isn't he? But as always, he's right. The 1973 preliminary final was an absolute blockbuster, with the Pies up by 6 goals at the main break. And with Richmond's greatest ever player, Royce Hart, benched through injury, it looked like it might become a dark day for the yellow and black.
Now, the bench isn't used as it is today, with players coming on and off as they please, and players were only brought on or off in extreme circumstances, and this was certainly one of them. At 43 points down, club administrator Graham Richmond stormed into the Richmond change rooms and demanded that Royce Hart be brought on in the second half to help the Tigers win the game.
It's almost as if he's a walking, talking Richmond encyclopedia. Coach Tom Hafey agreed, and Hart took to the field in the second half, booting 2 goals to steer Richmond to a fabulous come-from-behind win and set up a tantalising grand final clash with Carlton the following week. Hart's efforts went down into Richmond folklore, while his performance in the following week's grand final triumph would be immortalised into the history books.
If there was ever a game to sum up Tim Watson's coaching career, it was this one.
Harsh words there, Foss Dog, but a 12-31 win-loss record does paint the picture. St Kilda weren't travelling the best at the time. What's new, according to Mr Sirianos? But against the Hawks in 1999, they were off to an absolute flyer. St Kilda led by a staggering 51 points at quarter time and extended their lead out to 63 points during the second. But against all odds, the Hawks flipped the script, booting 13 goals to 3 to pull off an absolutely bonkers win from behind. As our resident St Kilda nuff Chris knows all too well, you can never get too comfortable watching the Saints.
If there's one thing I've learnt being a Saints fan for the past 22 years, it's that it's not over until the final siren sounds. Fortunately, I do not remember this game, but that's all I'm going to say about it.
Come on, mate, we need something a little bit more expansive to close this one out, like the overt hand movements and exasperated signs.
To be up by such a margin against Hawthorn and lose. I know St Kilda weren't much in the 1999, but come on, up by 60 plus points.
But not much better. The Hawks' legendary feat went down in the history books as the greatest comeback of all time, up until, oops, don't want to spoil anything. On with the show.
A goal will give the Lions an incredible victory. Ash McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
It just doesn't get old, this one. The goosebumps-inducing comeback from the lowly Lions against the Flying Cats beggars belief. But this miracle on the grass is real, alright. With Brisbane down by over 6 goals at the final change, it would take something incredible to notch up the unlikeliest of triumphs. But the Lions, boy did they pounce, booting 7 goals to peg the margin right back to within a single point. And with one final passage of play in the dying stages, the footy landed with milestone man Ash McGrath to the sound of the final siren.
Ash McGrath, miracle on grass. That's the miracle right there. They were getting smacked. They did it on grass. Doesn't matter if it was carpet, hard court, clay court, grass. I know it's a totally different sport, but mate, those Lions of 2013 didn't get much to celebrate, but they got the job done on that day.
We spoke about this one last week, and we're going to speak about it again because it is just so good. Ash McGrath kicked that famous goal after the siren, after Brisbane were 52 points down against a pretty good Geelong side who were sitting well in the top 4.
8 goals in the last with an after the siren kick from outside 50, giving the Lions a stunning comeback win and one of the greatest turnarounds of all time. Simply amazing. What can top an 8-goal turnaround in the home and away season? A 13-goal turnaround in the grand final against traditional arch rivals. That's what. It was a battle of epic proportions between the Blues and the Pies in the 1970 grand final, packed in front of 121,000 supporters.
Not only did Alex Jezelenko take the most famous mark in VFL-AFL history, but the cup that was awarded to Carlton was filled to the brink with magpie tears because at halftime, Collingwood led 74-29.
And against its ultimate arch rival, no less. It is immortalised as one of the greatest grand finals of all time, complete with 2 of the oldest and grandest teams going head-to-head, a record crowd, and Alex Jezelenko's game-defining mark.
Mackay to the wing position on the member stand side. Oh, Jezelenko, you beauty! Good Lord. Alex Jezelenko.
The Collingwood fans were so confident the win was theirs, however, that they started singing their song at half-time. I wonder what our Collingwood diehard Nick has to say about this one.
I swear to God, whoever comes up with these lists, whoever comes up with them, I might bring back my own list. Because you know what happens when you do that?
And scene.
Yes, emotion I think will be the word from everyone involved. It's been an amazing day. They started off absolutely brilliantly, the Kangaroos, but the Bombers are such a champion team. They're trying hard. The clock is counting. And the game is over. One of the best ever. One of the very best ever matches played on this magnificent ground.
You didn't think we'd forget this one, did you? It's not only the single greatest comeback of all time, and it's one of the most sensational games ever played in the AFL.
Now, prior to this game, Essendon had defeated North Melbourne by an average of 105 points from their last two meetings, and the Bombers were on top of the table as well, which made it all the more unexpected when North Melbourne shot out to a 69-point lead midway through the second quarter.
You heard that right, folks. 69 points. The Bombers looked absolutely gone with zero chance of a comeback as the Roos piled on the pain with goal after goal. But just like that, the Bombers turned it around, booting 9 goals before half-time and then another 15 to pull off an absolutely astonishing 12-point victory. The final score, 27-9-171 to 25-9-159.
How Kevin Sheedy was able to bring Essendon back from the brink of a crushing defeat and go on to register a record-breaking win in one of the greatest games of all time is just phenomenal. You've got Lloydie bagging goals left, right and centre. He ended his day with 9. You've got Hurd and Caracella running rampant. It's phenomenal. Like, you would love to have been in that crowd and just to witness history.
The match set the record for the greatest comeback in AFL history, equalled the record for the most goals in a match with 52, and was the highest aggregate scoring match since 1993.
When you're up by such a big margin, in 2001 against the team that were the reigning premiers and you got your foot on the throat, you don't take your foot off the throat. You continue to put your foot on the throat and you don't freaking stop. Bloody hell. But the Bombers, wow, what a comeback. What a team.
Now, watching it back, it looks like Essendon switched the settings from legendary mode to beginner as Matthew Lloyd kicked 9 goals and Essendon recorded the greatest ever comeback scene in AFL history.
And although this match closed the book on a dominant era for two powerhouse clubs, it's still a very deserving number 1 in our top 10 comebacks of all time.